Yeah, we're knocking them out, baby. 3 for 3, bar for bar, Montreal Canadiens videos to open up the show, because today what I wanted to do was dive into some comments made about the 5th overall pick from the most recent draft, Ivan Demidov, baby. Because today we're not diving into some comments made by a media person. We're not talking about what some analyst or a scout has to say about Demidov and his play. Instead, we're talking about some comments made by a teammate of his, and a teammate who has come into the spotlight in the NHL world various times over the past few years, usually for a bunch of bad reasons. It's Tony DeAngelo of SKA St. Petersburg. Now, I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with Tony DeAngelo, especially if you had been following the New York Rangers in the 2020s. His situation with Alexander Georgiev, the fight, the physical confrontation that happened, which inevitably led to Tony D getting his behind removed from the Rags organization. He found himself over in Carolina, he went to Philadelphia, he then went back to Carolina, and had a varying level of NHL success in those years too. He was producing points, he was a top power play guy, very talented offensive defenseman Tony DeAngelo is, despite all of the extracurriculars, the fights, the racist comments that he made on the ice, not to an opponent but to his own teammates. Yeah, that was kind of a thing. But anyways, Tony DeAngelo is now with SKA St. Petersburg, and I, like many other Canadiens fans, were actually very pleased to see him sign with SKA. There wasn't any NHL interest that was significant enough for him to come back, and so him going to one of the best teams in the KHL to play with one of the best prospects in the NHL was always going to be seen as a big dub. Tony D right now has 16 points in 10 games played with SKA St. Petersburg, on pace for a 96-point year, which I don't even know if that's really possible for any defenseman in the KHL, but hey, if he goes out there and does that, then I would love to see it happen. In fact, he is not even the top producing defenseman in the KHL in general. That honor belongs to Trevor Murphy, who has 20 points in 17 games and who leads the entire league in scoring thus far. Should be noted, though, that DeAngelo does have a better points per game than Murphy does, so we'll see how that race forms over the next few months. But Tony DeAngelo is also on Twitter. His account is right here, TDA7724. Now you might be wondering whether or not this really is him because it's got no header picture, he's only got 1,000 followers, and he's not verified. But the account is fairly new, and I'm seeing a lot of people say that Tony DeAngelo posted this Twitter account on Instagram, like he had posted a screenshot, that the Twitter is indeed his. Plus, if you go through his tweets, I mean, look, I'm not going to get into any politics here, especially American politics, because firstly, that's not really my place to go out there and comment on, and secondly, I don't want to tempt the YouTube algorithm. I don't want things to go down a different path than they should be with this content and these conversations. But Tony DeAngelo's Twitter account has a very specific set of tweets that he usually goes out there and posts, which makes it a lot easier to believe that it is Tony DeAngelo behind the keyboard. Anyways, the reason we're talking about Tony DeAngelo is because of his comments on Ivan Demidov. The KHL the other day posted the very beautiful highlight, Kuznetsov over to Demidov to DeAngelo, the shot and then the goal. Beautiful assist there, fantastic playmaking ability by Demidov. They've actually tried this play a few times, DeAngelo with the shot and then the rebound out in front. And Tony D went out there and posted this on the 22nd. Attention Montreal fans. Ivan Demidov should have had 5 points last night. I made up for missing a wide open chance he gave me in period 1 with this goal. He is really, really good. And one of the top replies from Mr. G, who goes out there and replies with a Kent Hughes profile picture, says, "Wow, Tony DeAngelo, take care of our boy." To which Tony responds saying that nobody will be messing with him. Don't worry. And hey, if there's anybody that's going to be able to stand up for Ivan Demidov, anybody that's going to be willing to drop the gloves and make sure that his rights get served, it's Tony DeAngelo of anybody. Also, I did find this reply from Alex Jourdouin really funny. Can you tell that to Rottenberg, man? Yeah, okay, like, imagine hitting up the KHL top defenseman scorer of a team being like, hey, can you tell your coach that this prospect in the Montreal system is underplayed and he should be getting more points and playing time? Obviously, it's not Tony D's spot to go out there and criticize Roman Rottenberg and tell him, hey, you should play this guy more. But considering Tony DeAngelo is one of the top point producers on the team, I think he kind of has some sort of authority in that system. I mean, go over to SKA St. Petersburg right now. He's the second overall point scorer behind Arseny Gritsyuk, and he's the number one D-man in points by a long shot compared to Alexander Nikishin. So obviously he's doing a really good job. Ivan Demidov, by the way, if you're taking a look at it, he's got 11 points in 18 games on the season. He had started to recently score assists ever since getting his ice time back. He's now had 3 games in a row with a point and 3 games in a row above 9 minutes time on ice, with the most recent game an 8-1 victory over Vityaz Moscow region, where he had 12 minutes time on ice. So Ivan Demidov is starting to get points. He's starting to get numbers back up on the board. This is, of course, the most desired outcome for Montreal Canadiens fans. And hearing that Tony DeAngelo is also an Ivan Demidov respecter is a really good sign as well. Just knowing that Demidov has that support, and even the North American folks who are in the KHL are paying attention to this guy and kind of catering to the masses, you know, tweeting it out. Hey, Habs fans, this guy's pretty good. Don't worry, we're going to watch his back, and we're going to make sure that he gets out okay. It's definitely not the comment that I was expecting to see out of Tony DeAngelo, of all people, but at the end of the day, it's great to see it, man. Tony D giving Demidov his props. Whether or not this means there's some sort of a chance that Tony DeAngelo comes over to Montreal, that remains to be seen. That's a totally other idea that I'm just bringing up because a lot of replies on the Tony DeAngelo Twitter account had Canadiens fans saying things like, hey, sign in Montreal, come play with Demidov here in Quebec. You like this guy? You can play with him next year. Like, I don't know about that, man. The Habs already have so many guys, and would you want to have another power play shenanigan situation? You want to have another battle? Mike Matheson versus Lane Hudson is already a thing for power play one time. Would you want to see Tony DeAngelo there too? You know, what's really interesting about Tony DeAngelo, if he were to be a part of the Montreal Canadiens organization anytime soon, if he ended up finding himself there, I do kind of question what the relationship would be like, because Tony DeAngelo was drafted by the Lightning in the 2014 NHL Draft. You know who was on the freaking Tampa Bay Lightning in 2014? Martin St. Louis. Now, sure, he got traded that season, actually, to the New York Rangers 1-for-1 for Ryan Callahan, so maybe there isn't really an overlap. Okay, yeah, no, never mind. Martin St. Louis actually left the Tampa Bay Lightning right before they drafted Tony DeAngelo, and his last year with Tampa Bay, Tony was still with the Lightning organization. Eventually he went over to Arizona and then New York. Okay, so there's no overlap there. I was kind of trying to make an angle as to whether or not there could have been some sort of a connection between Tony D and Martin St. Louis, but either way, does not seem like that's going to be a conversation. Anyways, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Tony DeAngelo speaking out about Ivan Demidov and his overall thought process as to how Demidov has performed as a talent. Seems like some pretty good praise, in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.